Chapter 6. Dumbledore awoke in a rather odd position. All he could remember was the sharp pain of something small hitting him near the neck, before oblivion took him. But then his attention was brought to the rather attractive woman before him. And the fact that for some inexplicable reason he couldn't use his wandless magic. No tricks, old man. I had the brat drain whatever power you used to infiltrate the village. You won't be leaving here until you answer some questions, and that's if I like your answers, the woman purred. Had the old man known who he was facing, he would have blanched. The woman before him was the much deadlier equivalent of Severus Snape, the only person who knew where he was at the moment. At least the general area anyway. For the next 8 hours, Dumbledore suffered the rather disturbing interrogation methods of Anko Mitarashi, the snake's bitch. It had taken him 5 minutes to realize he was dealing with a Slytherin-like person rather than the Ravenclaw or Gryffindor he was hoping for. Anko was rather thorough, and to his horror he spilled exactly why he was in the village. Her eyes narrowed at the description, which was more than enough for him to learn he was finally in the right village. Petunia Dursley had been less than forthcoming about where she left the boy who lived, and her memories were less than reliable. He considered himself lucky to have recognized the elemental countries in the first place. Finally, the woman left and he tried to reach for his magic. He was rather proud to be able to operate without his wand, which had been confiscated while he was out cold. Finding out that he barely had enough magic in him to rate above Squib was a rather nasty surprise. Somehow they had drained nearly all of it. Though he had no idea how. So what's the verdict? Asked Ibiki. He apparently came here to kidnap the Aburame, though I seriously doubt he knows what Shino looks like. All he had was a vague description of a boy about 13 with emerald green eyes and a scar above the right eye. What makes you assume he's after Shino? Asked Inoichi. Shino Aburame is the only person in the village with emerald green eyes. The scar is easy enough to overlook, but eyes like those get noticed fairly quick, answered Anko. Unless you're an Aburame, in which case they would be behind glasses at all times, said Ibiki, nodding his head. Then there's that thunder trick he used to get in. Only the brat has ever used that until now. True. Why don't we send him to the Hokage so we can get rid of him sooner? Asked Ibiki. Best have the brat's bugs on him. Something tells me this guy is used to using whatever that weird power was to get his way. Shino had a headache. It wasn't because Naruto was getting on his nerves, or because someone had been overloud. It was because whatever he had drained from the old man had literally stirred up his nest inside his body. It was like his insects were on steroids or something. The last time he had this problem, he had learned about the odd power he had inside him. It had taken 3 weeks of intense training to get the hive back to normal, and even then he was still a human vibrator for an entire week. Guys, we need to find someone insanely tough to beat within the next hour or my hive is going to give us away, Shino said suddenly. The other two looked at him. Why? Because my hive is so stirred up that they won't leave me alone unless they can work out this excess energy. You have no idea how much trouble they can cause when they are this hyped up. What kind of trouble? Asked Naruto, interested. Last time I didn't get rid of the excess, the small termite hive I had went ballistic and devoured 4 stores and a small section of the forest before finally dying off of overeating, Shino deadpanned. The two stopped and looked at him. It was easy enough to read the expression they had. It was a total WTF look. Yeah. Dad refused to let me replace them when it was obvious I couldn't control them. Just out of curiosity, what kind of bugs do you have on hand at the moment? Asked Naruto slowly. Mostly butterflies, moths, and fireflies. And nearly 100 of those special healing bugs, but they're pretty dormant unless blood is present. Why butterflies? Asked Hinata. I like butterflies. Besides, people tend to be less creeped out around me if I use them instead of the moths, deadpanned Shino. Hinata acknowledged his point. Girls were more likely to hang around if he used butterflies instead of the more creepy insects. "Hey, didn't your dad ban you from keeping any of the larger insects here?" asked Naruto, changing the topic. Shino's look soured. "Both of them did, even though it was pretty clear I could handle the chakra load. They said I wasn't allowed to keep any insects here because my body wouldn't be able to handle it." His teammates laughed, because it was obvious Shino was still sulking about that. Since it was clear Shino would be of little to no help without getting rid of his excess energy, they went in search of a stronger opponent. And found it in the one person they really should have avoided. To say Sasuke was surprised to see Shino and Naruto there to help him would be an understatement. Particularly since the pink banshee happened to be the two. To make things even more confusing was the fact that the large snake, which had previously been aiming to eat him whole, had suddenly stopped and was looking at Shino with speculative eyes. Orochimaru, the snake Sannin, was more interested in him than he was in Shino. Which was odd considering Shino had definitely said something to that snake. He would have thought that the snake creep would jump at the chance to mock someone like Shino. "So Anko wasn't kidding when she said you'd never bother with an Aburame host," said Shino, amused. Sasuke looked at him. "Huh? Apparently he can't stand bugs. And something about our bodies make it impossible for him to use us as hosts," clarified Shino. "Lucky bastard." Shino smirked behind his collar. "More like he's an unlucky bastard. My insects have been riled up, and the only way to calm them down is to go all out." And with that statement, Sasuke finally noted the fact that Shino wasn't even on a branch. He was literally flying on a cloud of what appeared to be black emperor butterflies. Orochimaru was more concerned about the large wave of moths that were coming at him, intent on devouring his clothes. He didn't even notice the other wave of flying insects coming at him. He dodged, and landed on a tree. Which abruptly broke in half upon landing. Further investigation by Sasuke revealed the largest termite hive he had ever seen in his life, not counting that odd incident where the store he was in suddenly collapsed after he left it. Imagine my surprise. When I found that my original termite hive that had gone ballistic a few years ago had survived, and was thriving here, said Shino, amused. Orochimaru wasn't as amused. He actually hissed at him, though it was more human than snake-like. Unlike Shino, Orochimaru didn't have the ability to use snake speak. And he didn't immediately command respect from the snake summons. He only believed he did. Which was probably the reason why what happened next shocked the traitor to his core. Shino's hands flew into a familiar series of seals, and he bit his thumb to complete the contract. Summoning Jutsu, Snake. From beneath Shino came the largest snake Sasuke had ever seen. Though the look on Orochimaru's face was priceless. Because Shino had not only turned his own summon beast against him. He had brought out the boss snake himself. So you finally decided to use that contract she gave you. It's about time, brat, hissed Manda, amused. I had yet to meet someone who was worthy of a fight with you, Manda-sama, said Shino. True. Manda shot out at Orochimaru, who was still in a bit of shock. Where did you get that contract? He demanded. Anko introduced me to Manda-sama when I was 8. He took a liking to me, as if that explained everything. Which, in a strange sense, it did. Anko had been rather thrilled that the only person in the village who was considered creepier than her had the requirements to summon snakes. Shino just didn't like using it that much because he was a well-known bug user, and snakes were more of Anko's thing than his. Plus the drain alone would kill him unless half his bugs were dead. With the arrival of Manda, the fight was decidedly one-sided. Shino, however, did not want Anko to run into Orochimaru just yet. With a wave of his hand, he threw a branch at Orochimaru. Who suddenly vanished halfway to wave. Yes, Shino made a portkey without a clear destination. He can only do this with places he has been at least once. Since Sasuke, Kiba and Sakura were worn out. Shino had the brilliant idea to use up that excess energy, which, unfortunately, had yet to go away despite the fight with the Sannin, by healing their fellow shinobi. Sakura originally didn't want the rather disgusting-looking bugs on her, but when she saw Sasuke allowing them to crawl over his wounds, she reluctantly relented. She was very shocked to find that her chakra was replenishing at a very fast rate. These bugs promote chakra growth, but right now I'm channeling whatever the hell I took from the old man who interrupted the first exam. For some reason it wouldn't translate into normal chakra, said Shino. Who was that old guy? Asked Sasuke. If these bugs were so useful, then why didn't more of the Aburame clan use them? I don't know, and frankly I don't care. All I know is that whatever the hell he has caused my hive to become hyped up. I hate it when that happens. Why haven't I heard about these bugs before? Asked Sasuke. They take up at least 4 times the amount of chakra in a hive. Plus they're strictly an Aburame clan insect. Most of us don't even use them because they eat so much. I'm the only person in the clan who maintains more than 10 in my hive. I have to ask ... why butterflies? Shino looked amused. How Sasuke could tell, he had no idea. I like butterflies, so sue me. Besides, people are less likely to run screaming from them than they are from that termite hive. Why didn't the branch beneath us collapse like that snake creep? Asked Kiba, honestly confused. Shino looked at him, his amusement even stronger. Naruto had finished bandaging the stab wound Sasuke had given himself. He could take it off in a day or 2. Hinata was busy helping Sakura get over her shaking. The termites that devoured that branch ... used to belong to my hive. One day they went ballistic on me, and devoured 4 stores and a good portion of the forest before dying. I had assumed most had died off, but apparently the surviving portion went here. Wait ... those were your termites that day? That store nearly collapsed on me, said Sasuke annoyed. I dislike it when they get this worked up. I had no part in whatever caused them to destroy that store, Shino replied flatly. His dad told him he wasn't allowed to have any more until he could find a way to prevent it from happening again, said Naruto with amusement clear on his face. He won't have a choice now. It's against our clan rules to leave any portion of your hive unchecked. Particularly if they happen to be destructive like termites, said Shino. Sakura shivered. Bug Boy was going to become creepier. Great. By the way ... which scroll did you guys get? Heaven. Why? Asked Sasuke with suspicion. Then you won't need this, said Shino. In his hands was the scroll he had nicked from the snake Sannin. How he got that when the man had swallowed it 5 minutes after challenging Sasuke's team, he didn't want to know. Which one did you guys get? Asked Kiba. Earth. How about in exchange for saving you from that snake creep, we keep this scroll? Said Shino casually. Done, said Sasuke. Gaara. Aburame, use Uzumaki, said Gaara. He was somewhat amused. Have fun? Asked Shino. I killed people who annoyed me, what do you think? He replied blandly. Village affiliation? Asked Shino. Rain. I can live with that. Depressing bastards, said Shino cheerfully. How was your foray into the forest? Asked Gaara. Boring, until I kicked a Sannin out of the village. The larger predators note to avoid us by scent, and the snake usually hide us after a prank, said Shino amused. Gaara's raised eyebrow spoke volumes. Apparently the snake Sannin was in the forest posing as a genin. He was targeting the last Uchiha when I showed up. My hive was ... a bit hyped up ... so I attacked. His expression at my summon beast was particularly satisfying. Gaara, for his part, actually squirmed a bit when Shino casually mentioned that particular Sannin. Shino stared, and said, anything I should know about? Yes. But you can't tell me because it would possibly damage your chances of a real friend? He asked. Yes. Considering I had to deal with Okimayu of all people, and from what Anko has said about her former mentor, I'm guessing it had something to do with destroying Konoha," he said blandly. Gaara said nothing, but his eyes said volumes. "And I assume you or Mr. Fuzzy has something to do with it?" Shino continued. Gaara smiled at the nickname Shino gave his tanuki problem. To be fair, Shino also called Naruto's fox spirit Mr. Cuddles. The Kyuubi absolutely hated that nickname. "Possibly. You would think a Sannin would come up with something more original," said Shino dryly. "True. On the plus side, I found out that some of my hive had survived a particularly embarrassing incident," said Shino in a good mood. "Do tell," said Gaara. "About 4 years ago, my termite hive went absolutely nuts without warning, and devoured 4 stores and a good portion of the forest. I still have no idea why," said Shino blankly. Gaara stared at him. "Devoured? Like I said, they went nuts. I had assumed they had all died from overeating, but I recently found them in the forest. Fortunately I was able to take control of them before anyone found out," said Shino amused. "Why is that so amusing?" asked Gaara. "Because my parents and clan absolutely forbade me from having another hive until I could prevent them from destroying stores like before," said Shino. Gaara finally got the joke. By finding his previous hive, his clan would have no choice but to allow him to keep the insects. Now if only I could find a way to control this secondary power that got them so wound up in the first place. Meditation seems to help, but not much, complained Shino. Gaara was rather silent, but then again he wouldn't know how to help his friend anyway.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you guys want to watch more like it, please subscribe to my channel and become part of the video game fanfiction plot. And please leave a comment down below and hit that like button. If you guys have any suggestions on any stories you guys want me to read, don't hesitate. They're always welcome here in the video game fanfic plot. That also goes for video games. Until next time, goodbye!